r/ask Reddit. Hey Reddit, what's the strangest coincidence you've ever personally experienced? When I was a kid, around 13, I played a lot of a video game called Diablo 2. I started a clan with a few people I'd met on the internet and we played every day. At some point we were helping some random person and he asked to join. We thought he was nice enough so we let him in. As part of this clan we had a shared account we used to store game items for each other. After about a month of playing, this new guy goes in and changes the password, steals the account and defriends everyone. Completely disappears off the map with all of our stuff. Fast forward a year later and my family moves to Texas and it's my first day at school. I'm sitting in algebra class talking to the person in the seat next to me and he mentions he plays Diablo. I said me too and that I ran a clan and everything. I asked his username and it was him. 2,000 miles away from where I first virtually met this guy. He's sitting next to me in math class. When I told him mine, his face went into total shock and he didn't know how to respond. It was awkward for sure. Ended up telling him I didn't care and was over it, but let's just say we didn't end up becoming friends. Probably thought you had tracked him down to exact your revenge. My screen name is Inigo Montoya. You kill, stole my stuff and Diabo. Prepare to die. Edit. Spelling. In freshman physics, I became friends with the Japanese kid next to me. After a while he was helping me with my Japanese homework. Did really well after that. BTW. But after that class, we kinda drifted apart. Fast forward 2 years where I'm an exchange student in Japan over the summer and doing some sightseeing in Kyoto after the program. I'm crossing the street in Kyoto and I hear my name being called out. I look around and there he is. Thousands of miles apart we meet again. We got some drinks and good food together. It was a blast. Open bracket. No, his hometown was not Kyoto. He was also doing sightseeing while home for the summer. Edit. My first gold. Thank you, kind internet stranger. That's absolutely insane. The odds are unreal. Not only the same place but the same time. And in Sightline's vicinity. To be fair, in season it feels like half the world is doing sightseeing in Kyoto. I met a Canadian guy while on holiday in South America and we ended up going sightseeing together. At the end of the day, a person behind us tapped him on the shoulder and asked if the scar behind his ear was from cancer surgery. They got talking. Turns out they were from the same small town in Canada, had the same type of brain cancer and had been operated on by the same surgeon. Something's up with that town. No, nothing's up with it. It's just a coincidence that the town just happens to be Cancerville, Manitoba. Started dating this girl a few weeks ago. We get to talking about where we live, etc. She lives in not only the same building but exact same apartment I lived in 2 years ago. It was so ducking bizarre walking into my old apartment that I never thought I would see again. What are the odds? That is pretty weird. The reveal convo was like something out of a cheesy B movie. Me. So what area do you live in? Her. Slow. On Ave. Me. Oh cool. I used to live there. Which apt? Her. Name's my old building. Wow, what a small world. Me too. I miss that place. I used to live on the 6th floor. Her. Me too. Me. Don't tell me you live in apt 610. Ha. OMG I do. Then she proceeded to send me pics from my old balcony. One that I spend countless hours on. Blew my mind completely. When I was 18, I lived in a town a very long ways away from where I ended up moving. I struck up a friendship with this guy from work in that town. We play Halo, watch movies, act, and he was awesome. I ended up moving suddenly due to a family emergency and never got his contact information. I didn't even remember his name a decade later, but I thought of him often as he was an awesome guy through all the years. 11 years later, I'm working at my job, carpooling with someone from my training class. And one night he asks if I mind his roommate being in the car as he was going to take the car after we got off at work and use it for the night. He introduces us. I turn around, and in the back seat is the guy from the town a very long ways away. We reconnected immediately, and now live together. He's my best friend, for sure, and the godfather to my children. Your co-worker must have been more stunned than you two were, lol. Especially since he stole his roommate. My sister, Emily, was on a ski lift in New Mexico when some younger girl across from her asked if her name was Emily. Apparently the stranger, who kind of looked similar but underage, had found her lost it the year prior and had been using it for a year to buy alcohol. Edit. After this blew up, I texted my sister, who reminds me it was weirder. She was later hiking with friends for 17 hours. They got tired, thumbed for a hitchhike and got picked up by this girl's twin. That's the best story right here. Imagine her going through emotions as she recognizes that the girl in front of her is who she has been pretending to be for a year. Did she just admit it right away? I used to get 2 buses home from work. I got off the first one having left my phone and keys on the front seat of the bus without realizing. Got on the second bus, went to my favored front seat, and my possessions that I didn't know were missing were waiting for me. The bus had changed driver and route. Still freaks my nut out to this day. Phone, wallet, keys. Before you leave the bus, remember the acronym WOE. Wallet for one, keys egg. Backup. Went to college. Met a cute girl. Where'd you go to high school? She asks. You've never heard of it? I reply. I grew up in a town of 1,200 people. Graduated in a class of about 90. Try me, she says. And that was the beginning of finding out that not only had she heard of it, she had almost attended it because her family had lived in one of the neighboring towns very briefly when she was growing up. We shared dozens of mutual friends and had apparently spent our young lives narrowly missing each other. Later, after we started dating, we learned that one of our mutual friends had been trying to set us up with each other for years. She was overwhelmed with laughter when she saw that we were finally together, completely without her involvement. I asked her to marry me. She said yes. We went out to dinner with our parents so they could finally meet. Her folks arrive at the restaurant and see mine. Her mom goes, "Oh hey, my dad's name. So this is your son." Huh. They had been co-workers years ago, of course. We've been married for 11 years now. Got a good thing going. We intend to keep it. Edit. I'm so glad you all enjoyed this. I love talking about my wife and have tons of wholesome stories like this. We do well because we each feel like we're the lucky one. Enjoy your day. Edit 2. By request of several commenters, I am adding one of my favorite stories of my wife and I in a comment below. It is a much cuter story. Please enjoy. I was worried you were related. And this is why I love Reddit. In grade 10 English class, the teacher didn't have anything planned for us to do and it was close to the end of the year, I guess. So she goes to the big cupo board in the corner and pulls out a stack of copies. It's examples of a successful essay written during a final exam, so we can learn what a good one looks like and how to build a narrative, etc. The topic of these was, what was the most pivotal moment of your life? There's 3 examples, ranging in proficiency. We read through the first 2, and I volunteer to read the last one aloud. I start reading, and I stop. The essay was about me. My big sister had gotten a really good mark 6 years earlier on her final exam essay, which she wrote about the day I was born. I got pretty emotional about that one. I like the idea that you just get all emotional and stuff while reading, and everyone thought that it was like the best story ever. Like, wow, we need to do something like that, but that's awesome. When I was born, my mother told me my brother slapped me when he first saw me. That always gave me the edge on he started it, so when he refers to something like a week ago, I can be like, yeah well, when I was first born you hit me. This is so pure. As a big sister, I understand how that was a pivotal moment for her. In my experience, there's nothing like the bond you share with your sibling. When I was a kid while hiking with my dad, I was babbling and said, "The teacher told us if you speak too much a fly will get in your mouth." In the exact moment a fly flew into my mouth. I was riding my bicycle very fast and ran through a group of mosquitoes. One went into my nose, which caused me to open my mouth, which resulted in a lot going into it. I crashed, sneezing and coughing on the ground trying to get them out. Bystanders thought I was having a seizure or something and tried to help while my friends stood there laughing. You got some great friends, lol. Told this story elsewhere, but I'm making you all read it again. Was at a convention. There were only a few people in the room. My friend and I wanted an autograph from a voice actor. He started singing in his character voice. There were 2 random guys next to me. One pulled out a video camera to record it. Years later, my husband and I are talking with friends, and the convention comes up. The guy with the video camera was my husband. I also took a picture later that day of the crowds, and he is in that picture. I stood next to my husband years before I met him. Edit. Thank you to everyone who shared their stories. Amazing how our lives can intersect. And a big thank you to the Redditor who gifted silver. It's a major award. Okay, that's insane, lol. This reminds me of the couple that were in the same Disney photo as children. Was sitting in a restaurant about 200 miles from where I live telling my mother, who was visiting from a different country, about a trip I had to another country, about 6,000 miles away, with a work colleague. And the lady at the table next to us leans over and says, "I think you're talking about my son." Turns out I was sitting next to my colleague's parents while showing my mum pictures of our trip. I was in Paris and some Americans were lost. They were the grandparents of my high school classmates from Nebraska. It's a small world. The person who sits next to me at work copies everything I do except she has no way of knowing. I wear a blue sweater. She wears a blue sweater. I bring leftover spaghetti. She brings leftover spaghetti. It is so weird I almost hate her. Are you sure you don't sit by a mirror? OP is a dog. I've mentioned this before on Reddit, so I'll just copy paste, but definitely the shadow dong incident. One night in university I was fooling around with my then GF and noticed that the brightness of the TV caused us to cast distinct shadows on the wall behind us. Being 19 and a fool, I took this opportunity to take a pic, using Snapchat, of the shadow my erect penis made on the wall and sent the pic to my best friend. I thought it would elicit an interesting reaction but could not have prepared for what was next. You see, on Snapchat you can see when someone receives your message as well as when it's opened. So as my message is sending, and opened by him, I receive a Snapchat from my best friend. I open it and lo and behold, what do I see? A shadow dong snap. This man decided at the exact same time that I did to send an identical pic of his dong's shadow on the wall. Both of our GFs were confused, thinking it was some inside joke, when in reality we had never spoken of or sent shadow dongs ever before. TL. Doctor decided to snap a pic of my dong's shadow to my best friend at the exact same time he decided to do the same. Edit. It's cool guys. We said no homo. So who won? And so, he sent his dong to me. The finest pic there was to see. A shining scene that runs amok inside my mind. To wit, a coke. I laughed aloud and softly sighed, and stared below with hope and pride, to where it sat, a shape and shade, and such a lovely sight it made. I saw it then. I see it yet. I see the sordid silhouette, and still I'm loath to look away. And oh, I see. I might be gay. I dunno if this counts as a coincidence, because it might be influenced by the commonalities between us, but I was reading through one of my dad's old journals and found out that he and I share the same reoccurring nightmare. The details are basically identical, even down to the frequency of it happening, once a month. It's very trippy. Edit. Just to answer some facts. As far as I can remember, I never discussed this with my dad. I felt okay perusing his journal because he has been dead for quite a while now, before his time, but having nothing in common with the details of the dream. It was suicide. I guess you can make of that what you will. I've detailed the dream itself below. That sounds like a plot from Supernatural. Dad went on a hunting trip. One year I got a roommate through Craigslist. The guy was weird for sure, but good-natured and paid rent. Anyway, after about 2 months of living with him, my cousin comes over to hang. I introduce the two and my cousin in the most chill voice ever said, "Nah man, we know each other." Turns out they were college roommates 5 years earlier in another state. Oh my god, they were roommates. When I was 1 year old, we moved to a city some 500 kilometers away from where I was born. 15 years later, my father decided to put me in a boarding school in the area of that first city, because he went there too. I got randomly put in a room with 2 other guys. Which one of them is still my best friend Toady. When I first visited that friend at his home, I discovered that he not only lives in the same city as we did, not much of a coincidence, as it's the only major city in that area, but in the same duck-eyeing house. OFC, I couldn't remember our old house, so I called my father to confirm that it's the same address, and it turns out that he very briefly knew my friend's family from selling the house. Edit. I hate you, and Toadie says I am totally right with that. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.